Let's listen to what Candace Owens has to say. All right, Candy. Go ahead, Candy. What say ye?
Ukraine is defending itself and the rest of the world from an authoritarian regime, and all you can think about is fossil fuel profitability. Wow, a genocidal colonization is interesting. Again, going back to my point of people being stupid, he's not trying to commit a genocide of the Ukrainians. That obviously makes no sense because there is no difference ethnically from Ukrainians and Russians. Obviously, Ukraine wasn't a thing until 1909. Ukraine was created by the Russians. It was, they speak Russian, so it's absolutely ridiculous. And again, it's
It is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the Ukrainians speak Russian. The Ukrainians speak, well, there's a minority speak Russian, like a minority of Americans speak Spanish, so basically Mexico and America are the exact same thing. Spain and America, there's a minority that speaks Spanish here. Basically the same thing. Right off the top, Candace Owens is wrong when it comes to Ukraine. Apparently, she doesn't know that the Ukrainian people are their own people. She doesn't know that the Ukrainian people have their own language, their own culture, their own history that is separate and distinct from Russia. She believes exactly what Putin believes. Putin says that Russia and Ukraine are the exact same thing. So what the hell are you guys talking about? They're one. Russia and Ukraine are one. So he's going to genocide the fucking Ukrainian people. He's going to wipe them out, either culturally or literally, because to him, he told baby Bush that there is no Ukraine. There's no such thing as the Ukraine. That's not a real country. The Ukrainians live in Ukraine. Russians live in Russia. Putin thinks that they're the same, and so does Candy Owens. 78% of the Ukrainians are ethnic Ukrainians. 78%. 68% of the Ukrainians speak Ukrainian as their primary native tongue. There is a Ukrainian language. Second language for Americans, it's a foreign concept. A second language is a foreign concept to Americans. I don't know why those Anglophone region living in motherfuckers don't understand second languages. And actually, a bunch of Americans speak Russian. A minority speak Russian, so does that mean Putin gets to come invade us? And actually, with all the denazification talk, I think Arkansas and the Deep South and Donald Trump should just shut the fuck up. But you got 78% of Ukrainians are ethnic Ukrainians. So when you go up to a Ukrainian person, you're going to have, 5 people. If you go up to 5 people in Ukraine, 4 of those 5 people will say that they are Ukrainian, and then 2 of the 3 will say that they speak Ukrainian. 68% of Ukrainians speak Ukrainian as their primary native tongue. So while you do have some Ukrainians who speak Russian as their second language, the Ukrainian people speak a Ukrainian language. The Ukrainian people are their own people. The Ukrainians belong in Ukraine. The Russians belong in Russia. They do not need to go into each other's houses and rape and murder and pillage and so when Candy Owens says, well, they speak Russian, the Ukrainians, they speak Russian. Some Americans do know a second language. Some Americans speak Spanish. Some Americans speak Russian. Some Americans speak Chinese. Does that mean China has a right to invade us? Does that mean Russia or Spain has a right to invade us? Because a minority of these English-speaking assholes out here speak a different language. I want people to speak different languages. But I don't want the idea, well, you're speaking a different language? Well, shit. That means, goddamn Norway's going to invade us. Why? Well, 10 people started studying Norwegian, and so we consider them Norwegian brothers. That's our Norwegian citizen brothers and sisters, and they're being oppressed, and we need to go rescue them. 78% of the Ukrainians are ethnic Ukrainians. There's 17.3% ethnic Russians who live in Ukraine. 17%. 17%. So if you walk to Ukraine and you come across 5 Ukrainians, 4 of those Ukrainians will say that they are ethnic Ukrainian. 1 is ethnic Russian. And then you have Belarusian, which is less than 1%, Moldovan, less than 1%, Crimean Tatar, less than 1%. So essentially, it's, all Russians and Ukrainians. It's all Ukrainians, but there's hardly anything else, but there's a big block of Russians. 1 out of 5. So if you go to Russia, they'll say that they're ethnic Russian, but that doesn't mean they hate Ukraine, and they may speak Ukrainian as a second language too. So, yeah, how many ethnic Americans live in America? How many of you Americans are ethnically American? 78%? Okay, well, that's the same as Ukraine. 78% of Ukraine are ethnic Ukrainians. So the official language of Ukraine is Ukrainian too. And only Ukrainian. Not English, not French, not Russian, just Ukrainian. All the official documents, all the government officials, the schools, government, everything. It's the official language. We don't even have an official language here in the United States. So the love or the adherence to the Ukrainian language is more, wedded, more embedded. Americans don't speak English. Americans speak American. There's no way goddamn Oxford English motherfucker could understand an Appalachian motherfucker. What in the hell that Oxford guy say? I try to tell him go get quick down by then send the Boomhauer, motherfucker. Yeah, Oxford is not going to understand Boomhauer. Boomhauer is not going to understand Oxford. Yeah, we're not part of the Anglophone region. We're part of the asshole Anglophone. Soccer. Well, we're going to call it what you call football, we're going to call it soccer because we're assholes. Native Americans, no. Indians. Anyways, where am I going with this? Don't lose track. Get back on track. The official language of Ukraine is Ukrainian and only Ukrainian. So, according to the 2001 census, 67.5% of the population declared Ukrainian as their native language. And 29.6% declared Russian as their native language. So that's 2 out of 3. When it comes, that's kind of crazy, actually. That would mean that there's more people in Ukraine that consider themselves ethnically Ukraine than people that speak the Ukrainian language. Usually those are kind of, one and the same. All that means is that there's some people in Ukraine that speak Russian, but they think of themselves as Ukrainian. Yeah, I speak Russian, but I'm a Ukrainian. Kind of like how we speak English, but we're Americans. Most native Ukrainian speakers know Russian as a second language. Russian was the de facto dominant language of the Soviet Union, but the Ukrainian language held official status. And in the schools of the Ukrainian SSR, learning Ukrainian was mandatory. So that's interesting. After the Holodomor, after Stalin went ahead and killed 4 million Ukrainians, apparently, they respected Ukraine. I don't know if that was after or before or what the hell was going on there. But those are the numbers. Those are the statistics. When Candace Owens says the Ukrainians speak Russian, that's kind of true, but that's not such a big truth. Not all Ukrainians, very few. And the point is, since they all speak Russian, they're all one people. They're all the same. They're not the same people. Ukrainians speak Ukrainian. They speak their own language. They have an institute, their own dictionary. They are more established. When we go to speak American, what the hell? We don't have like an American dictionary, American institute. A lot of countries, France, Germany, they have like one dictionary they all adhere to, and then there's like some institute that, says this is what is in the language and this is what is not in the language. This is how we write this. This is how we write that. So they're kind of always developing the language. English basically is the lingua franca of the world. 68% of Ukrainians says Ukrainian language is their primary native tongue. 78% of the Ukrainians say that they're ethnic Ukrainians. 78%, 68%, that's the overwhelming vast majority. That's the overwhelming vast majority. Their original tongue is Ukrainian. They're ethnic Ukrainian. Some speak Russian as a second language. Some think of themselves as Russians. 1 out of 5. And that's 17%. So that's actually generous. That's giving them more. But that's a good estimate. You go up to 5 Ukrainians. 4 of them will say they're ethnic Ukrainian. 1 will say they're ethnically Russian. And that ethnic Russian may consider himself, I don't know. I don't know if he loves the country or not. But 1 out of 5, there's 1 out of 5 is Russian. So Russia's going to take over the whole nation and say that 1 out of 5 is not 5 out of 5. So the way Candy Owens had said it, she said it was like it was 5 out of 5. It's not 5 out of 5. It's 1 out of 5. It's a minority. And we're not going to make, that makes no sense to make a minority language the official language for the rest of the country. Ukraine, speaks Ukrainian. It's the official language. They're ethnic Ukrainians. They are for themselves. Ukraine is for the Ukrainians. Ukrainians live in the Ukraine. If you go up to a Ukrainian 4 out of 5 times, they'll say that they're Ukrainian through and through. They speak Ukrainian. They are Ukrainian. 1 out of 5, they will not. The Ukrainian language has been in common use since the late 17th century, associated with the establishment of the Cossack Hetmanate, 1600s. So Candace Owens keeps on, acting like the Ukraine was invented just a few years ago, but it turns out the Ukraine was actually, it's been around for hundreds of years. And here's 2 dates here. There was like this peace treaty of perpetual peace, Treaty of Perpetual Peace, 1686. And it's by Lithuania, Russia, Poland, and the Ukraine. The Ukraine is their Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire tried to invade the Ukraine. And so because Poland and Russia are fighting for the Ukraine, they kind of said, all right, you take this piece and we'll take that piece. And 1686. The Ukraine has been around since 1686. And then if you want something more closer, the Ukrainian War of Independence happened 1917. So World War I was happening. The Ukrainian War of Independence was happening at the same time. So at the same time that World War I was happening is the Ukrainian War of Independence. The Bolsheviks are going to try to conquer Ukraine. They're going to try to de-Ukrainify it and try to Russify it. And they're going to have a major famine. 4 million Ukrainians are going to get starved to death in 1932. So just some facts there. The Ukraine was not, invented in 1989. And they voted for independence in 1991. So if she wants to say that, the recent independence movement, that would have been 1991, not 1989. So, yeah, the Ukraine has been around since at least 1917. The Ukraine has been around at least since 1686. The Cossacks have been around the 1600s. That's the Ukrainian language is the Cossack language. So that's a big point to remember. Candy Owens can learn that the Ukrainians, when you go back through history, the Ukraine has been, getting plundered by groups after groups after groups. And in fact, the Cossacks are probably an invader group too. They're all invader groups. The Skalati and the Scythians and the Gravettians and the Neanderthals or the Homo sapiens. The Huns and the Ukrainians are the Cossacks. They're the Cossacks. Just remember that. From their history, from the 1800s, there was the Cossacks. Where were they at? They lived in the Ukraine. It's in their national song. They're going to say, we've been here forever. We're not going to go anywhere. We're the Cossacks, you stupid Russian pieces of shit. We're not the fucking Russians, you dumb motherfucker. We're the goddamn Cossacks. It's in the Ukrainian national song. So listen to their national anthem. From 1804 until the Ukrainian War of Independence, in 1917, the Ukrainian language was actually banned from schools in the Russian Empire. So they're trying to suppress the Ukrainian culture, the Ukrainian language. The biggest part of Ukraine, central, eastern, southern, was at a part of the time. It maintained a sufficient base in western Ukraine. So the Ukrainian language, the Western Ukrainians have always been speaking the Ukrainian language, but the Russian Empire tried to stamp that shit out. And actually, I wish there's a map. You could go to Wikipedia and check this out. If you look at a map of Ukraine, you'll see where the ethnic, Russian speakers are. And it's such a tiny minority of the map. You only see like a little dots over here. You see Crimea, a lot of Russians in Crimea, but not in the rest of Ukraine. In the rest of Ukraine, there's very, very few Russians. Very, very few Russians. Even though, they're concentrated in different spots, I guess, since there's 17%. And that 17% might be included the Crimeans. If you don't include the Crimeans, that's where all the damn Russians in Ukraine was in Crimea. So I bet you if you just subtract the Crimeans, you got 8% Russians instead of, 17%. Regardless, it's still, minority language. It's a block. It's a voting block. But the Ukrainian language, it's in their folk songs. It's the musicians, authors. The official language of Ukraine is Ukrainian. Some folks can speak, some folks speak Russian, but they all fucking speak Ukrainian. There's over 40 million Ukrainian speakers in the world. Ukrainian language retains a degree of mutual intelligibility with Belarusian. There's 2 million Ukrainians in Russia who self-identify as Ukrainian. They need saving. I wouldn't be surprised if Putin started to throw them into the gulags. Enri, California-styled internment camps for the Japanese. Remember when California did that? Throw all those Japanese in World War II in the internment camps? But that's so fucking Russia. The Stalin, and the Bolsheviks killing Ukrainians. That's what the fucking Russians do. That's who they are. They didn't come there to preserve or to save their culture. They came there to rape their culture, rape their land, steal their culture, steal the government, take everything from them, and tell them that they're goddamn Russians. Knock it off with this Ukrainian shit. Ukrainian language, Ukrainian songs, Ukrainian dictionaries. Shut the fuck up with the Ukrainian bullshit. Fucking 78%, that's a vast, overwhelming majority that are ethnically Ukrainian. And then the, 30% that speak Russian only speak it as their primary language. So how many speak Ukrainian as their second language? Last but not least, life expectancy at birth for the Ukrainians. I would hate both the communists and the damn Nazis. I would hate them both. If I'm Ukraine, listen to this. Life expectancy at birth fell to a level as low as 10 years for females and 7 years for males in 1933. So that Holodomor fucking killed the shit out of them Ukrainians. Killed the fucking shit out of them. So if you were born in, Ukraine, the Soviet Ukraine, back in the 1930s, only expect to, if you're a female, live to be 10 years old. If you're a male, 7. That's the average lifespan. And then it plateaued. So it actually expanded. In World War II, 1941 to 44, females got to live up to 25 years of age, and males got to live up to 15 years of age. That's so fucked up, it's not even funny. According to the Oxford Companion to World War II, over 7 million inhabitants of Ukraine, more than 1/6 of the pre-war population, were killed during the Second World War. So the communists are going to kill 4 million Ukrainians. The Nazis are going to kill 7 million Ukrainians. Yeah. If I'm Ukrainian as fuck. Fuck them Nazis. Fuck them communists. I'm a Ukrainian. And so in that sense, the nationalism of Ukraine is very much an anti-fascist, an anti-imperialist, oppressor force. With all this denazification talk, I would think that Arkansas, the Deep South, Donald Trump, and your Candy Owens would just shut the fuck up. Lay low. Lay low. You're not an expert on Ukraine. You can't just repeat Tucker's, and then Donald say and act like you need a new standard bearer. You're fucking the Republican. It's all